Alright everyone, it's been a long time coming, but the growth this past year has been unbelievable, and you all have shown so much support, and I'm actually quite surprised at how convenient this timing was. We got to Prestige 10 and 10,000 subscribers all by Christmas, and I'm not gonna lie, this was absolutely the greatest Christmas gift I could have ever asked for, and I am very, very grateful. Now, depending on when you're watching this, I may have about 12,000 subs. But regardless, I made a recent post asking you guys for any questions you might have for me. So I have compiled 15 of those questions, and I'm hoping I'll give a satisfying answer to each of them. But first, we have a new ID card to unlock, so let's go ahead and check it out. You can progress your account further by prestiging. This will unlock a new badge and themed ID card for you to use. Look at this. This ID card looks so cool. Oh man. Yo! Oh, that's so cool. I love that so much. That's probably my favorite ID card thus far. I can only imagine the freaking Prestige 20 badge. It's the same one, but animated, so that'll be cool to see. So now let's move on to the questions. I'm just going to put some Phasmo gameplay in the background, but without further ado, let's start with the first question here. Hudson asks, what motivated you to start YouTube? And how do you manage the stress of uploading consistently now that 10,000 plus people are waiting for you? Well, I started YouTube because I had a lot of time on my hands. I know it sounds kind of crazy to bet my time like that, but it really wasn't entirely luck-based. YouTube is very much a learnable skill, and I already had some experience. I just had to pick a niche. I had to pick something that I could use to provide value and knowledge in something that I was genuinely passionate about, and Phasmo was just the first thing that came to mind. Like I said, I did have some experience beforehand. I did some video production, just from passion projects that I used to do with like narration and whatnot, and those skills kind of accumulated over time, and thankfully it kind of transferred over, making it easier to gain that initial momentum with my channel, which I know can be a very hard thing to do if you're just starting. As for managing the stress, there's always going to be some amount of pressure with this big of an audience. Z-Dog asks, what got you into Phasmophobia? So I wasn't always a huge fan of horror games in general. I was a bit a fan of like the original Slender games, and I was a bit of a fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's games for a while. But when Phasmophobia exploded during its launch, I was just immediately hooked. It kind of established a new subgenre of horror games where instead of running from the monster, you actually need to interact with it to gain evidence, and I thought that was really, really cool. So it just kind of stuck, and I've loved the game ever since. Cool asks, what's your favorite type of games? I'd love to see you playing other games you enjoy. So my favorite types of games, aside from horror, are mostly RPG games like Skyrim, Fallout, or even life sim games like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing. Not to mention my entire childhood consisted of me playing Pokemon and Legend of Zelda. So I definitely want to branch into some other games at some point. The problem is, YouTube hates when you go outside of your niche. I mean, if you look at some of my videos for other games, they just never gained as much traction. And it makes sense. I mean, a majority of you guys are here for Phasmophobia, but I could definitely look into making a second channel eventually for a different game, or at least experimenting with games that are similar to Phasmo, like Demonologist. Mr. Goon asks, how come you're not doing streams? I might try streaming at some point. The problem is I literally don't have the upload speed right now to be able to sustain a live stream, nor do I have an ideal setup for it, so it's definitely up in the air. It could happen at some point, but I wouldn't count on it anytime soon. Kazd asks, have you ever thought of playing with subscribers? For fun or to help them improve? I've definitely considered it, but generally I'd prefer just doing solo content and playing alone for right now. Besides, if I were to play with viewers, it could get hectic, and I'm honestly just enjoying doing the informative, relaxing style that I have been. But maybe I'll do something like joining public lobbies at some point just to see what happens. Wojciech asks, if you could change one thing about Phasmophobia, what would it be? I would absolutely change the gameplay for larger maps so that they aren't as tedious to navigate. There's no reason the devs couldn't add something like a backpack to carry more, maybe even an item that grants a more permanent speed boost, or another tool to find the ghost room easier. Any change that would make the larger maps more fun to investigate, I would love to see. Mike asks, the biggest question that needs to be answered is, how did you come up with your name, WarpedCrayFish? It was granted to me as my Xbox 360 gamer tag, and I just stuck with it. Tony asks, how do you not be scared while being hunted? When it comes to overcoming the fear of being hunted, it really just comes down to repetition. When you see the same ghost models running at you thousands of times, the fear heavily diminishes. My biggest tip would be to turn off item loss and get hunted repeatedly. Even if you die, you wouldn't lose anything. It would be purely for the purposes of overcoming the fear and practicing escaping. If you don't have custom difficulties unlocked yet, you can just go in with starter items on amateur and start the hunt with a cursed object. Trust me, by the 100th time you've done that, you won't be afraid anymore. Tabito asks, how old are you? I am 24 years old. Llama asks, how can I be a better no evidence player? So my biggest tip when it comes to getting better at zero evidence would be to not overwhelm yourself with all 24 ghosts at the same time. Instead, I'd recommend going into your custom settings and taking away 1 evidence or even 2 evidence. That way you're only working with a limited amount of ghost abilities at a time. When I first started, I literally only did professional runs, but I just gradually got the hang of most ghost abilities, not really by intensively studying them, but mostly just by naturally accumulating the knowledge over time, mostly by watching videos and just enjoying the game. You Don't Need to Know Me asks, what type of Phasmo ghosty are you and why? I would be a shade because I am very introverted. Pluto asks, if you were a real ghost hunter, what 3 items would you bring with you? If I were a real ghost hunter, I would be hiding in a corner with a flashlight so that I can see, holding out a crucifix in one hand, probably shaking in intense fear, and I would have a video cam in my other hand, just to make sure I record my last moments. Caps asks, if you could go back to the start of your YouTube channel, what's 1 piece of advice you'd give to yourself to make things easier? If I were to give advice to my past self starting YouTube, I'd say the most important thing to do would be to focus on ideation and providing value to people. Consistency is great to get the snowball rolling, to set a foundation, and to become comfortable with making content, but getting 1 good idea that provides a lot of value to people and helps them could make a huge difference. So I would tell myself to not overthink it, not worry too much, because fear was something that was really getting in the way, and I would just focus on getting good ideas that help people or provide value, or at least entertain them in some way. Plasmy asks, what do you hate most about Phasmophobia? Probably Brownstone High School. Every room looks the exact same and it takes forever to navigate. Easily the worst map in Phasmophobia. My most hated thing about Phasmo is either Brownstone or the Goryo ability making it so stubborn to identify. And for the last question, Sadie asks, do you have any big goals for 2025? It could be for this channel or just for life in general. My goals for 2025 mainly consist of developing my skills with my commentary in particular, and I could definitely see myself doing more of this style where I'm just answering questions, talking about different topics, or just utilizing my voice more, which you all seem to enjoy a lot. And if nothing else, I just want to get more comfortable speaking naturally. Live commentary isn't as easy as it seems, which is why you see a lot of cuts in my videos, mainly from me stuttering. Obviously, you all love the Phasmophobia stuff, and it's been very helpful for you all, so that will remain, especially with some crazy updates coming out for the game soon. I'm excited for that. But I don't know, I just kind of want to experiment with new ideas a little bit and see what happens. But it'll be interesting for sure to see how it all pans out and how my channel evolves in 2025. Also, none of it would have been possible without my friend Starkiller. He has taught me so much about content creation and helped me out a ton. So go subscribe to him, his channel will be linked below. He does more high energy comedic style content. His videos are way more chaotic and enthusiastic as opposed to my relaxing style, so if you're interested in that, you can check out his content and his channel. But thank you all for the questions. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you all again for 10,000 subs. That number is mind-blowing. Here's to 100,000. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. Thank you to all my members. If you want to become a member, you can click the join button down below and you'll get early access to all my videos. But I'm going to leave it there. So thank you again, and I will see you in 2025.